The morning air on Aethermoor smelled like ozone and dragon fire. Hyun wiped the sweat from his forehead as he climbed the maintenance ladder leading to Platform 7. His toolbox rattled against his hip with each step. Below him, the massive courtyard of the Celestial Wing Academy buzzed with activity. Today was the bonding ceremony, and everyone who mattered was here. Everyone except people like him. Hyun was human, which meant he was here to fix things, not to fly. For 3,000 years, the Academy had trained the elite warriors of the galaxy. Dragon riders were chosen from dozens of species, but never humans. The scientists said human brains were too simple. Their neural pathways could not connect with dragon consciousness. It was just biology, they said. Nothing personal. Hyun had stopped being angry about it years ago. Anger took energy, and he needed his energy for survival. He worked 16-hour shifts repairing gravity platforms and cleaning dragon roosts. The pay was decent. Nobody bothered him much. It was a life. The platform beneath his feet groaned. Hyun knelt down and opened his toolbox. The metal support beam had cracked again. These dragons were getting heavier, or the Academy was getting cheaper with repairs. Probably both. He pulled out his welding torch and got to work. Below, the ceremony was beginning. Hyun could hear the headmaster's voice echoing through the courtyard. Kavalesh was a Vrax, which meant he looked like a 7-foot-tall lizard wearing expensive robes. His voice boomed with natural authority. "Today the dragons will choose," Kavalesh announced. "Cadets, present yourselves with honor. Dragons, choose with wisdom." Hyun had seen this ceremony a dozen times. The cadets would line up, all polished and proud. The dragons would circle overhead, ancient and terrifying. Sometimes a dragon would land and touch a cadet with its snout. That was the bond forming. The cadet would cry or scream or faint. Then everyone would cheer. It was all very dramatic. Hyun focused on his welding. The metal glowed orange under the torch's heat. He had to be careful. One mistake, and the whole platform could collapse during tonight's feast. That would be embarrassing. Fatal, maybe, but mostly embarrassing. A shadow fell over him. Hyun looked up, annoyed. Someone was probably standing in his light, but there was no one on the platform with him. The shadow was too big, too dark. He turned slowly. A dragon was hovering 3 feet away. Hyun's welding torch clattered to the platform. The dragon was massive, with scales the color of fresh blood. Its wings spread wide enough to block out the sun. Yellow eyes, bright as stars, stared directly at him. Hyun had seen dragons before. He cleaned their roosts, but he had never been this close to one that was awake. He tried to remember the safety protocols. Do not run. Do not scream. Do not make eye contact. Hyun failed at that last one. He could not look away. The dragon drifted closer. Its breath smelled like smoke and something older, something that made Hyun's hair stand on end. Below, someone was shouting. The ceremony had stopped. Everyone was staring up at Platform 7. "Stay still!" Kavalesh's voice cut through the air. "Human, do not move!" Hyun had no intention of moving. His legs had turned to stone. The dragon landed on the platform with surprising grace. The metal groaned under its weight but held. Up close, Hyun could see scars on its scales, old wounds from old battles. This was not a young dragon. This was something ancient. The dragon lowered its head until its snout was inches from Hyun's face. He could see his reflection in those yellow eyes. He looked terrified. He was terrified. Then something happened that Hyun would never be able to explain properly. A voice appeared in his head. It was not his voice. It was vast and warm and older than mountains. "Finally," the voice said. "You." Hyun's knees buckled. He sat down hard on the platform. The voice was not just in his head. It was his head. It was everything. He could feel the dragon's presence like a weight pressing down on his consciousness, but it was not crushing him. It was holding him, steadying him. "What?" Hyun's own voice came out as a whisper. "What is this?" "This is the bond," the dragon said. "I am Velrith, and you are mine." Below, the courtyard had erupted into chaos. Cadets were shouting. Instructors were running toward the platform. Kavalesh was screaming something about protocols and impossibilities. Hyun heard none of it clearly. The only thing that felt real was the voice in his head and the massive creature standing before him. "This is impossible," Hyun said. He was talking out loud now, though he somehow knew the dragon could hear his thoughts. "Humans cannot bond. Everyone knows this." Velrith made a sound that might have been a laugh. It rumbled through the platform. "Everyone is wrong. Your kind has been dismissed because the tests were false. But I know what I feel. I know what you are. What am I? Worthy." Hyun wanted to laugh or cry, or possibly both. He had spent 6 years at this academy being invisible, 6 years of fixing things while other species became heroes. And now a dragon, one of the ancient guardians of the galaxy, was telling him he was worthy. "Get away from that human!" Kavalesh had reached the platform. He was climbing the ladder with impressive speed for someone in ceremonial robes. "Velrith, you are clearly unwell. Return to your roost immediately." Velrith turned his head to regard the headmaster. When the dragon spoke again, everyone in the courtyard heard it. The voice echoed not through the air, but through their minds. "I am not unwell," Velrith said. "I am bonded. This human is my rider. Challenge this if you dare." Kavalesh froze halfway up the ladder. His scales had gone pale. Around the courtyard, other dragons had landed. They were watching with interest. Some of them looked curious. Others looked angry. None of them looked surprised, which Hyun found strange. "This violates every precedent," Kavalesh said, but his voice had lost its authority. "The Council will never accept this. Humans lack the neural capacity for bonding. This is scientific fact." "Science," Velrith said, "is what we know until we know better." More people were arriving now. Hyun recognized some of the senior instructors. There were Korvathi warriors with their 4 arms folded in disapproval. There were Talesian scholars muttering to each other in their musical language. There were Vrax officials who looked like they wanted to start a war right here in the courtyard, and there were other humans. The maintenance crew, the kitchen staff, the cleaners. They stood at the edges of the crowd watching. One of them was Nari, the xenobiologist who worked in the research wing. Hyun had spoken to her a few times. She looked shocked, but there was something else in her expression. Hope, maybe. Kavalesh finally climbed onto the platform. He was careful not to get too close to Velrith. "I am ordering you to return to your roost," he said to the dragon. "And you," he pointed at Hyun, "will come with me for medical evaluation. Something has clearly gone wrong here." Velrith moved before Kavalesh could finish speaking. The dragon's body shifted, and suddenly he was blocking the ladder. His tail curled around the other side of the platform. There was no way down except through Velrith, and no one was willing to try that. "The human stays with me," Velrith said. "He is my rider, my choice. If you wish to contest this, headmaster, then challenge me. Dragon to dragon, rider to rider, otherwise accept what is." The courtyard had gone silent. Hyun looked around at all the faces staring up at him, some angry, some shocked, some calculating what this meant for their careers, their species, their place in the galaxy's hierarchy. Hyun looked at Velrith. The dragon's yellow eyes met his, and Hyun felt that presence in his mind again. Strong and steady, and absolutely certain. "What happens now?" Hyun asked quietly. Velrith's response was simple. "Now, everything changes." The medical wing of the academy smelled like antiseptic and fear. Hyun sat on an examination table while 3 different species of doctors poked at him with instruments. They had been scanning his brain for 4 hours. None of them would look him in the eye. "The neural pathways are definitely active," one of the Talesian doctors said. She was speaking to her colleagues, not to Hyun. "But this should not be possible. Human brainwaves operate in the theta range. Dragon consciousness exists in delta-gamma frequencies. There is no overlap." "Then your instruments are broken," Hyun said. The doctors ignored him. They always did. Hyun was an anomaly now, not a person, something to be studied and explained away. He wanted to leave, but Kavalesh had posted guards outside the door. They said it was for his safety. Hyun knew it was to keep him away from Velrith. The separation hurt. That surprised him. He had only bonded with Velrith yesterday, but already the dragon's absence felt like a missing limb. He could sense Velrith somewhere in the academy, probably locked in his roost. The dragon's emotions bled through their connection: anger, frustration, determination. Hyun closed his eyes and tried to send thoughts back. He was not sure if he was doing it right. Everything about this was new. "I am still here," he thought. "They have not gotten rid of me yet." Velrith's response came immediately, warm and strong. "They will not. I will burn this academy to ash before I let them separate us. Please do not do that. I work here." He felt Velrith's amusement ripple through the bond. It helped. Hyun opened his eyes and found one of the doctors staring at him. "You were communicating with it just now," the doctor said. "Your neural activity spiked." "Him," Hyun corrected. "Velrith is not an it." The doctor made a note on her datapad. "Fascinating. The human shows emotional attachment to the entity. This could explain the false positive in the bonding response." Hyun wanted to argue, but the door opened before he could. Nari walked in carrying a stack of folders and a determined expression. The guards tried to stop her, but she pushed past them with surprising force. "You need to see this," she said to the doctors. "All of you." The head doctor, a Vrax named Korthan, frowned. "This is a closed examination. You have no authorization to be here." "I have data," Nari said. She dropped the folders on the examination table. 6 years of research that everyone ignored because I am human and my conclusions were inconvenient. But I was right. She opened the first folder and pulled out a series of brain scans. Hyun recognized them. They were the standard tests that every species took when applying to the academy, the tests that humans always failed. "These tests measure delta-gamma frequencies," Nari said. "Dragon consciousness operates in that range, so the academy uses it as the baseline for bonding potential. Humans score 0 on this test. Therefore, humans cannot bond. Simple, right?" The doctors looked uncomfortable. Korthan crossed his arms. "The science is sound." "The science is incomplete," Nari shot back. "You are measuring the wrong thing. Human consciousness does not operate in delta-gamma range. We operate in epsilon-beta frequencies. This range was not even discovered until 20 years ago. It exists below what most scanners can detect." She pulled out another scan. This one looked different. The wavelengths were tighter, faster. "I had to build my own scanner to detect it, and when I scanned myself, I found something. Epsilon-beta frequencies naturally harmonize with delta-gamma frequencies. They do not overlap. They complement each other, like a key and a lock." The room had gone quiet. Even Korthan was leaning forward now, studying the scans. "You are saying humans were never tested properly," the Talesian doctor said slowly. "I am saying humans were never supposed to be tested," Nari replied. "The original Academy founders only tested species that were already part of the galactic elite. Humans were a new species, unknown, unproven, so they were excluded from the beginning. The tests came later to justify the exclusion." Korthan's scales flushed dark with anger. "That is a serious accusation." "It is the truth. I found the original meeting notes in the archives. The founders specifically wrote that humans were too unpredictable to be trusted with dragons. They were worried humans would disrupt the political balance. Hyun felt something cold settle in his stomach. So we were never unable to bond. We were just never allowed to try. Nari met his eyes. Exactly. The doctors began arguing among themselves. Hyun stopped listening. He reached out through the bond to Velrith. "Did you know," he asked, "about the tests being false?" "I suspected," Velrith replied. "Dragons do not rely on science to choose riders. We feel the potential in a being. I have felt it in humans for centuries, but no human was ever allowed near the bonding ceremony. Until you." "Why me?" "Because you were already there. And because I am old enough and angry enough to stop caring about rules." Despite everything, Hyun smiled. He was bonded to a dragon with authority issues. Somehow that felt right. The door burst open again. This time it was Kavalesh, followed by half a dozen Academy officials. He looked at Nari with pure rage. "You are under arrest," Kavalesh said, "for theft of Academy property, distribution of classified materials, and inciting interspecies discord." "I shared research data," Nari said calmly. "That is not a crime." "You are trying to undermine 3,000 years of Academy tradition. Guards, take her." 2 Korvathi guards moved forward. Hyun jumped off the examination table, putting himself between them and Nari. The guards stopped, looking uncertain. Hyun was nobody important, but he was also bonded to Velrith now. That made things complicated. "She is telling the truth," Hyun said. "And you know it." Kavalesh's eyes narrowed. "What I know is that you are a mistake, an embarrassment. The council is convening tomorrow to discuss this situation. I expect they will declare your bond invalid and order Velrith to choose a proper rider." "The bond cannot be broken," one of the doctors said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. The Talesian doctor was staring at her datapad with a shocked expression. "I just ran a deep neural scan. The bond has already integrated into the human's brain structure. Severing it now would cause permanent psychological damage, possibly death." Kavalesh looked like he had swallowed poison. "Then we will keep them separated until the bond degrades naturally." "It will not degrade," the doctor said. "Dragon bonds do not fade. They strengthen over time." The room erupted into arguments. Kavalesh was shouting about protocols. The doctors were debating medical ethics. The guards did not know whether to arrest Nari or protect Hyun, or just stand there looking confused. Hyun felt Velrith's presence surge in his mind. The dragon was angry now, truly angry. The temperature in the medical wing began to rise. "Velrith, no," Hyun thought quickly. "Do not do anything stupid. They are threatening you. That is unacceptable. I know, but burning down the medical wing will not help. It would make me feel better." Despite the chaos around him, Hyun almost laughed. He could feel the dragon's protective rage through the bond. It was terrifying and comforting at the same time. Kavalesh had stopped shouting. He was staring at Hyun with cold calculation. "The trial of ascension begins in 3 days," he said. "Every cadet must pass it to become a full rider. You will take the trial." Hyun knew about the trial. Everyone did. It was brutal, dangerous. 1 in 5 cadets died attempting it. The trial was designed for species with natural armor, redundant organs, or advanced healing. Humans had none of those things. "You want me to fail," Hyun said. "I want you to prove you belong here," Kavalesh replied. "If you pass, the council will have to acknowledge your bond. If you fail," he shrugged, "then nature will have corrected the mistake." Nari grabbed Hyun's arm. "This is murder. The trial is designed for Vrax and Korvathi physiology. A human cannot survive it." "Then perhaps humans do not belong here after all," Kavalesh said. He turned to leave, his robe sweeping behind him. You have 3 days to prepare. Use them wisely." The officials followed him out. The guards took Nari away, though she was shouting the entire time about legal rights and academic freedom. Soon Hyun was alone with the doctors, who looked at him with something like pity. "You should refuse the trial," Corthan said quietly. "There is no shame in admitting your limitations." Hyun thought about refusing. He thought about running. He thought about hiding in the maintenance tunnels until this all blew over. Then he felt Velrith in his mind, steady and certain. "We can do this," the dragon said. "Together." Hyun took a deep breath. "When is the first training session?" The doctors stared at him like he was insane. Maybe he was, but he was also a dragon rider now. And dragon riders did not run away. The training grounds were empty when Hyun arrived before dawn. His body ached from 2 days of brutal preparation. Velrith had not gone easy on him. Dragons did not believe in gentle training, they believed in survival. "You need to understand something," Velrith had told him on the first day. "The trial will try to kill you. It has killed many who were stronger than you. Your only advantage is that you are not stronger." Hyun had not understood then. He was starting to now. The trial of ascension had 3 stages. The first was the Inferno Run, a course through superheated tunnels filled with plasma vents. Most species could tank the heat with their natural armor. Humans would cook. The second stage was the Void Drop, a high-altitude dive through zero-oxygen atmosphere. Species with efficient lungs could hold their breath for 20 minutes. Humans had maybe 3. The third stage was the Nightmare Gate, a psychic assault designed to shatter weak minds. Most species had mental compartments to protect themselves. Human minds were wide open. Hyun was going to die. Everyone knew it. The betting pools gave him odds of 200 to 1. But Velrith had a plan. "You cannot win by being stronger," the dragon had explained. "So you must win by being smarter. The trial has rules, but rules are not the same as limits. We will use what you are, not what you are not." Now, standing at the entrance to the Inferno Run, Hyun tried to remember that confidence. The tunnel ahead glowed red with heat. He could feel it from 20 feet away. His flight suit was standard issue, designed for Korvathi physiology. It would protect him for maybe 5 minutes before his skin started to blister. Other cadets were gathering behind him. They kept their distance. Hyun was either crazy or contaminated, and no one wanted to be associated with either. He recognized a few faces. Thok, the Korvathi instructor who had sabotaged his harness during practice flights. Vexith, a Vrax cadet who had called humans walking meat in front of everyone. They were all watching him with barely concealed satisfaction. Kavalesh stood at the observation platform. His voice echoed through the cavern. "Cadet Hyun, you may withdraw from the trial at any time. There is no dishonor in recognizing your limitations." Hyun did not answer. He closed his eyes and reached for Velrith through the bond. "I am here," the dragon said immediately. "I am always here. The heat is going to be bad." "Yes, but you have studied the plasma patterns. You know what to do." Hyun had spent the last 2 days analyzing recordings of previous trials. He had noticed something the other cadets never needed to notice. The plasma vents followed a pattern. They were not random. The Academy used predictable generators to create the obstacles. Other species just charged through and endured the burns. But Hyun could not endure, so he would dance instead. "Begin!" Kavalesh announced. Hyun ran into the tunnel. The heat hit him like a physical wall. His lungs burned with each breath. Sweat poured down his face instantly. Ahead, he could see the first plasma vent charging up, the walls glowing brighter as energy built. He counted in his head. 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. Hyun dove forward. The plasma blast erupted behind him, so close he felt his hair singe. He rolled to his feet and kept running. The next vent was already building. He counted again. This one had a longer charge time, 4 seconds instead of 3. He timed his sprint perfectly, passing the vent just before it fired. Behind him, he heard the other cadets entering the tunnel. They were not counting. They were just running, trusting their armor to protect them. Hyun heard the plasma hit flesh and bone. Someone screamed. Hyun pushed the sound away. He could not think about them. He had his own survival to worry about. The tunnel branched ahead, left or right. Both paths glowed with heat. Hyun reached for Velrith again. Which way? Velrith's mind touched his, and suddenly Hyun could feel what the dragon felt. Air currents. Temperature differentials. The left path was hotter, which meant more vents, more danger, but it was also shorter. Hyun went left. 3 more vents. He danced past them all, his timing perfect. His human reflexes, quick and adaptable, turned what should have been impossible into merely difficult. He burst out of the tunnel into blinding sunlight, his skin red but not blistered. Behind him, cadets were still struggling through the course. He had passed the first stage. The second stage was worse. The void drop platform stood at the edge of the stratosphere. Hyun could see the curve of Ethermore below him. Velrith hovered nearby, ready to catch him if he fell. But the rules said dragons could not interfere until the cadet reached the landing zone. If Hyun passed out from oxygen deprivation, he would fall and die. Breathe slowly, Velrith advised. Your species evolved for endurance, not bursts of strength. Use that. Hyun stood at the edge. Other cadets were lining up behind him. They looked confident. Why would they not? Their bodies were built for this. Kvalesh's voice crackled through the comm system. On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Drop. Hyun jumped. The air disappeared. One moment he was breathing normally, the next his lungs were screaming for oxygen. The ground rushed up at him. He spread his arms and legs, trying to control his fall the way Velrith had taught him. Make yourself a glider, not a rock. His vision started to blur. 30 seconds had passed, maybe 40. His lungs felt like they were collapsing. He wanted to gasp, to breathe, but there was nothing to breathe. Stay conscious. Velrith's voice was urgent in his mind. You are almost there. The landing zone appeared below. A platform with atmosphere generators. 10 more seconds. Hyun did not have 10 seconds. His vision was going dark at the edges. His body felt light, disconnected. He fell through the atmosphere barrier. Oxygen flooded back. Hyun gasped so hard he thought his ribs would crack. He hit the platform rolling, too dizzy to land properly, but he was alive. He had passed the second stage. 2 other cadets landed after him, then a third, then silence. Hyun realized some of the others had not made it. Their bodies would be falling somewhere over Ethermore's western continent. He did not have time to feel guilty. The third stage was waiting. The Nightmare Gate was a psychic field generated by captured dark matter. It attacked the mind directly, forcing the victim to experience their worst fears and deepest traumas. Strong minds could wall off the attack, compartmentalize the pain. Human minds could not compartmentalize like that. Hyun stood before the shimmering gate. Velrith's presence in his mind was stronger now, preparing for what came next. Do not fight it, Velrith said. Accept it. That makes no sense. Your species feels everything. Your emotions are not weaknesses to be locked away. They are tools. Use them. Hyun stepped through the gate. The pain was instant and absolute, his mind filled with images of his worst memories. The colony on Kepler 442b burning, his parents dying in the attack, years of being ignored, dismissed, treated as inferior, the fear that he would always be invisible, that he would never matter. The psychic assault tried to shatter him with those memories, but Hyun did not try to block them. He let them in. He felt them completely, and then he felt Velrith beside him in the darkness, sharing the pain. You are not alone anymore, Velrith said. Hyun grabbed onto that presence. He channeled the pain through the bond, and Velrith absorbed it, transformed it. The dragon's ancient strength mixed with Hyun's raw emotion, and together they created something new, something the Nightmare Gate had never encountered before. A Gestalt consciousness, two minds working as one. The psychic assault faltered. It was designed to attack individual minds, not bonded pairs. Hyun felt the pressure ease. He pushed forward one step at a time. Velrith pushed with him. They broke through together. Hyun collapsed on the other side of the gate, gasping and shaking. His mind felt raw, exposed. But he was alive. He had passed all 3 stages. The observation platform erupted in shocked silence. Even Kavalesh looked stunned. Thok stood nearby, his forearms crossed, his expression unreadable. Hyun forced himself to stand. His legs shook, but he managed. "I passed," he said to Kavalesh. His voice was hoarse. "All 3 stages. You cannot deny it." Kavalesh's scales had gone pale. "You used unconventional methods. The trial is meant to test individual strength, not trickery." "The trial is meant to test survival," Hyun shot back. "I survived. By using my brain instead of my body. That is what humans do." Velrith landed beside him with a crash that shook the platform. The dragon's eyes glowed with fierce pride. "He passed your trial," Velrith said. "Now accept the bond or challenge it properly." Kavalesh looked between Hyun and the dragon. The other cadets were watching. Officials were recording everything. This moment would be broadcast across the galaxy. Whatever Kavalesh decided now would define his legacy. The headmaster's expression hardened. "Cleverness is not honor," he said coldly. "You passed through tricks, not strength. I do not recognize this as a legitimate completion." The platform went silent. "Then you leave me no choice," Velrith said. His voice echoed in every mind present. "I invoke the trial of dominion. Dragon against dragon. Rider against rider. Winner claims authority over this academy and this bond." Hyun felt his stomach drop. The trial of dominion was ancient law, rare, deadly. If Velrith lost, Hyun would lose everything. The bond, his life. Maybe the lives of every human who dared to dream of flying. But Velrith's mind was firm and certain in his. "Trust me," the dragon said. "We did not come this far to fail now." Kavalesh smiled coldly. "I accept your challenge." The news spread across the galaxy in hours. A trial of dominion had not been invoked in 400 years. The last one had ended with 3 deaths and a civil war. Now it was happening again, and the reason was impossible. A human had bonded with a dragon. Hyun sat in the medical wing, being treated for burns and oxygen deprivation. The doctors worked in silence. They knew what was coming. In 3 days, Hyun would face Kavalesh in the Shattered Sky arena. If he lost, the bond would be declared invalid. If he won, everything would change, if he survived at all. "You should eat something," a voice said from the doorway. Hyun looked up. Nari stood there, flanked by 2 guards. She looked tired but defiant. They had released her from custody after the trial of Ascension. Even Kavalesh had to admit that arresting her looked bad, now that the whole galaxy was watching. "I am not hungry," Hyun said. "Eat anyway. You need your strength." She pushed past the guards and sat beside him. She had brought a tray of food from the human section of the cafeteria. Real Earth food, rice, vegetables, protein that actually tasted like something. Hyun picked at the food. "What is everyone saying?" "Which everyone? The Vrax Empire is furious. They are calling this a corruption of sacred tradition. The Talesian collective is fascinated. They keep running the numbers, trying to figure out how you survived the trial. The Korvathi are split. Some think you cheated. Others think you proved something important." "What about Earth?" Nari smiled. "Earth is celebrating. You are a hero back home. The first human dragon rider. Every news channel is covering it. There are parties in the streets. Hyun felt sick. I have not won yet. You survived the trial of ascension. That alone is a victory. Kavalesh will not make the same mistake twice. He knows I cannot beat him with tricks now. The trial of dominion is about raw power, him and his dragon against me and Velrith. His dragon is Azrathion, Nari said quietly. I looked him up. He is over 800 years old, one of the founding dragons of the Academy. He has fought in 73 wars and never lost a battle. You are not helping. I am being honest. Nari grabbed his hand. But I also believe in you. In both of you. Velrith would not have challenged Kavalesh if he thought you would lose. Hyun wanted to believe that. He reached for Velrith through the bond. The dragon was in his roost, resting, preparing. Hyun could feel the old wounds aching in Velrith's body. The dragon was strong, but he was not young. Azrathion was older, bigger, and backed by the entire Academy establishment. We are going to die, Hyun thought. Possibly, Velrith replied calmly, but we will die fighting for something that matters. That is more than most beings can say. Hyun closed his eyes. He wished he had Velrith's certainty. The next 3 days passed in a blur. Hyun trained until his body gave out, then trained some more. Velrith taught him ancient combat techniques, maneuvers that had not been used in centuries. The dragon also taught him about bonding, about how to merge their consciousness more completely. When we fight, you must trust me completely, Velrith explained. And I must trust you. We cannot hesitate. We cannot doubt. We must move as one. How do I do that? Stop thinking of yourself as separate from me. You are not Hyun who rides Velrith. You are both, always. It sounded simple. It was not simple at all. On the evening before the trial, a ship arrived from Earth. Hyun was summoned to the landing platform. A human delegation had come, led by an admiral named Doyen. He was older, gray-haired, with the kind of face that had seen too many battles. Cadet Hyun, Doyen said formally, I bring greetings from Earth and a warning. What warning? If you lose tomorrow, humanity's reputation will suffer for generations. We will be seen as pretenders who reached too high. It will be used to keep humans out of the Academy forever. Hyun felt anger flash through him. So I should not have tried? I did not say that. Doyen stepped closer. I am saying the stakes are higher than your personal survival. You carry the hopes of our entire species. That is not fair. No, it is not. But it is reality. Doyen's expression softened slightly. However, if you win, you will change everything. You will prove that humans belong among the stars as equals, not servants. That is worth fighting for. Hyun wanted to tell the admiral to leave, that he did not need this extra pressure. But Doyen was right. This was bigger than him now. I will do my best, Hyun said. That is all anyone can ask. Doyen saluted. Earth is watching. Make us proud. The delegation left. Hyun stood alone on the landing platform, feeling the weight of an entire planet on his shoulders. He hated it. He had never wanted to be a symbol. He just wanted to fly. You are not alone, Velrith reminded him. And you are not just a symbol. You are my rider. That is enough. The morning of the trial arrived too quickly. Hyun put on his flight suit and tried not to think about dying. Nari found him in the preparation room. I did more research, she said. She was carrying her datapad, covered in notes. Azrathion has one weakness. He is proud. He has never lost, so he does not know how to adapt when things go wrong. If you can surprise him, you might have a chance. How do I surprise an 800-year-old dragon? By being human, by doing things no other species would do. Hyun thought about that. It was not much of a plan, but it was something. The shattered sky arena was enormous. A sphere of pure force fields suspended in space. Inside, there was no gravity, no air, no up or down. Just empty void and the two combatants. Spectators watched from ships surrounding the arena. Millions of beings across the galaxy were watching the broadcast. Hyun and Velrith floated at one end of the arena. Kevalesh and Azrathion faced them from the other end. Azrathion was massive, his scales black as deep space. His eyes glowed with ancient power. Next to him, Velrith looked small and scarred. But Velrith's mind was steady in Hyun's. "Do not be afraid of size," the dragon said. "I have beaten larger enemies. Power is not just about strength." A neutral referee, a Talesian judge, spoke from a ship overhead. "This is a trial of dominion, dragon versus dragon, rider versus rider. Victory goes to whoever forces submission or death. There are no other rules. Begin." Azrathion struck first. He moved faster than something so large should move, his massive body crossing the arena in seconds. Velrith rolled sideways, and Hyun felt the maneuver through the bond, moving with his dragon as if they were one being. Claws raked through the space where they had been. Azrathion roared, and the sound vibrated through the force fields. "You shame yourself, old friend!" Azrathion's telepathic voice boomed across the arena. "Bonding with a human. With prey. Have you forgotten what we are?" "I have remembered what we are," Velrith replied. "We were meant to choose, not to rule." Azrathion attacked again. This time, Kevalesh was coordinating, directing his dragon with practiced efficiency. They moved like a machine, brutal and unstoppable. Velrith dodged but barely. One of Azrathion's claws caught his wing, tearing scales. Hyun felt the pain through the bond. It burned like fire. But Velrith did not slow. "Focus," the dragon commanded. "Use the zero gravity. Humans are adaptable. Show him what that means." Hyun understood. In zero gravity, there was no up or down. Most riders still thought in terms of ground and sky because their instincts demanded it. But Hyun had no such instincts for this environment. He could think in 3 dimensions naturally. He guided Velrith in a corkscrew pattern, spiraling around Azrathion in a way that made no sense in normal flight. The larger dragon tried to follow, but his movements were predictable, powerful, but predictable. Velrith struck from below, raking claws across Azrathion's belly. The black dragon roared in fury. "You fight like a coward," Kevalesh shouted. "I fight like someone who wants to win," Hyun shouted back. The battle continued. It was brutal and exhausting. Azrathion was stronger, but Velrith was smarter. Or rather, Velrith and Hyun together were smarter. They moved in ways Azrathion did not expect. They attacked from angles that should not exist. But it was not enough. Azrathion was wearing them down. Velrith's movements were getting slower. His breathing was labored. The old wounds were reopening under the strain. "We cannot win with strength," Hyun thought desperately. "Then we win with sacrifice," Velrith replied. Before Hyun could ask what that meant, Azrathion lunged. His jaws opened wide, going straight for Velrith's neck. It was a killing strike, final and unstoppable. Hyun made a decision. He released his safety harness and jumped. In zero gravity, he floated free from Velrith. His trajectory carried him directly into Azrathion's path. The black dragon's eyes widened in surprise. His jaws snapped shut, missing Hyun by inches as Azrathion pulled back at the last second, unable to bite through empty space where he expected to find Velrith. Velrith used that moment. He struck at Azrathion's exposed throat, not to kill, but to pin. His claws found purchase, and suddenly the two dragons were locked together, spinning through the arena. "This ends now," Velrith said. "Submit, or we both die." Azrathion struggled, but Velrith's position was perfect. They would crash into the force field in seconds, At this speed, the impact would kill them both. "Velrith, no!" Kavalesh screamed, but Azrathion went still. His ancient eyes studied Velrith, then turned to look at Hyun, who was still floating nearby, having trusted his dragon to catch him. "You would die for him?" Azrathion asked quietly. "Without hesitation," Velrith replied. Something changed in Azrathion's expression. "Then I have already lost this fight." The black dragon released his hostile posture. Velrith let go, and they drifted apart. Hyun used his maneuvering jets to float back to Velrith, his hands shaking. Azrathion turned to face Kavalesh. "I submit," the ancient dragon said. The human has proven himself. The silence in the shattered sky arena was absolute. Millions of beings across the galaxy watched as Azrathion, the undefeated legend, submitted to a human and his dragon. Kavalesh floated beside his dragon, his expression frozen in disbelief. "This is not possible," Kavalesh whispered. "It is done," Azrathion replied. His ancient voice carried weight that could not be denied. "I will not be part of murder disguised as honor. The human fought with courage. More importantly, his dragon fought with love. That is what bonding was always meant to be." Kavalesh's scales flushed dark with rage, but he could say nothing. The trial of dominion was absolute. Azrathion had submitted. By ancient law, Velrith and Hyun had won. The Talesian judge's voice echoed from the observation ship. "Victory is declared for Velrith and Rider Hyun. The bond is recognized as legitimate. The challenge to Academy authority is upheld." Hyun barely heard the words. He was clinging to Velrith's harness, his entire body shaking from adrenaline and exhaustion. Through the bond, he felt Velrith's fierce pride mixed with relief. They had survived. Against all odds, they had actually survived. "We did it," Hyun thought. "No," Velrith corrected gently. "We became what we were always meant to be." The force fields dissolved, and ships began moving closer. Medical vessels for the dragons, transport ships for the riders. Hyun saw Nari's face on one of the viewing screens. She was crying and laughing at the same time. The next hours passed in a haze. Doctors examined both dragons and declared them battered but alive. Kavalesh was escorted away by Academy officials, his career in ruins. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from 24 species argued about what this meant for the future. Hyun sat in the medical wing, wrapped in a thermal blanket, drinking something hot that tasted like cardboard. He did not care. He was alive. Velrith was alive. Nothing else mattered. Nari burst into the room, followed by a crowd of humans. Workers from the cafeteria, engineers from maintenance, researchers from the archives. They were all cheering, some of them crying. One of the older women hugged Hyun so hard he thought his ribs would crack. "You did it," she kept saying. "You actually did it." "We did it," Hyun corrected, gesturing to everyone. "Nari's research made it possible. You all supporting me made it possible." "I just flew the dragon." "Just flew the dragon," someone laughed. "He says it like it is easy." A new figure appeared in the doorway. Admiral Doyen, still in his Earth military uniform. He saluted Hyun formally. "Earth is proud of you, Cadet Hyun. You have changed history." Hyun wanted to say something humble, but he was too tired. He just nodded. The celebrations continued for days. The Galactic Council eventually ruled that the Academy must open its bonding program to all species, including humans. Kavalesh was removed as headmaster. A new council was formed, with representatives from multiple species, including one human seat reserved for Nari. But the most surprising development came 3 weeks after the trial. 7 more dragons bonded with humans, then 15, then 40. Once the first bond was proven possible, it was like a dam had broken. Dragons who had waited centuries for the right rider suddenly found them among the human workers who had always been invisible. One of them was Jiwon, a shuttle pilot who had been flying cargo for 12 years. She bonded with a silver dragon named Thraxis. When Hyun met her, she was still in shock. "I was just loading supplies," she said, "and Thraxis landed next to me and said I was the one, just like that. No ceremony, no trial, just choice." "That is how it is supposed to work," Hyun said. "The dragons choose. We just have to be there." Jiwon looked at him seriously. "They are calling you a hero, the human who broke the academy. But some people are calling you a threat. The Varax Empire has put a bounty on your head. Other species are angry too. They think humans are taking something that was not ours." "Let them be angry," Hyun said. "We are not taking anything. We are just existing. If that threatens them, that is their problem." A month after the trial, Hyun was offered the position of junior headmaster. It came with prestige, authority, a permanent place in academy leadership. He turned it down. "Why?" Nari asked when he told her. "This is what we fought for, a seat at the table." "You have a seat at the table," Hyun said. "You are brilliant, and you love politics. But I am not a politician. I am a rider. Velrith and I belong in the sky, not in an office." "Then what will you do?" Hyun smiled. "I am forming a squadron. Humans and dragons who want to actually fly, not just argue about regulations. There are parts of the galaxy that need help. Pirates, raiders, colonies under threat. We can make a difference there." "You are going to be a hero again," Nari said. "I am going to be useful," Hyun corrected. The squadron formed quickly. Jiwon and Thraxis joined immediately. 3 other human riders signed on. They called themselves the Unseen Wing, a reference to how invisible humans had been before. Now they would be impossible to miss. Their first mission came 2 weeks later. A Vrax merchant fleet was harassing a colony of refugees on the outer rim. The local government had no military, no protection. They were desperate. Hyun and his squadron arrived in a blaze of dragon fire. The Vrax fleet retreated immediately. They had seen the news. They knew what a human dragon rider could do. More importantly, they knew that humans were no longer alone and powerless. The refugees thanked them with tears and celebrations. It reminded Hyun of when he was young, when his own colony had needed help and no one came. Now, he could be the one who showed up. That night, sitting around a fire with his squadron, Hyun felt something he had not felt in years. Peace. Purpose. He looked up at the stars and reached for Velrith through the bond. "Do you regret choosing me?" he asked. "All the trouble I caused?" Velrith's response was warm with amusement. "You assume you caused trouble? I caused trouble. You just happened to be there. Are you saying this was your plan all along?" "I am saying I saw a human who deserved to fly and made it happen. Everything else was just details." Hyun laughed. 6 months ago, he had been a maintenance worker, invisible, unimportant. Now he was changing the galaxy, one flight at a time. The Academy held a ceremony 3 months after the trial of Dominion. They unveiled a new monument in the central plaza. It depicted a dragon and a human, side by side, reaching toward the stars together. The inscription read, "Strength is not in domination, but in the courage to choose one another." Hyun attended the ceremony with Velrith. Nari was there, now official chief xenobiologist. Jiwon was there with Thraxis. Admiral Doyen came from Earth with a full delegation. Even some of the Vrax and Korvathi officials attended, though they looked uncomfortable. Kavalesh was not there. He had left the Academy in disgrace, returning to the Vrax homeworld. Some said he was organizing resistance against human integration. Others said he had retired in shame. Hyun did not care either way. The old guard was fading. A new era was beginning. After the ceremony, Hyun found himself standing before the monument alone. Well, not quite alone. Velrith's presence was always there in his mind, constant and comforting. "What are you thinking?" Velrith asked. I am thinking about how strange life is, how one moment you are nobody, and the next moment you matter. You always mattered. The galaxy just needed time to notice. Will this last? The changes we made? Nothing lasts forever, Velrith said. But what we started will echo for generations. Other species will follow. More bonds will form. The old hierarchies will crumble. We did that. Together. Hyun looked up at his dragon. Velrith's crimson scales gleamed in the sunlight. The scars from their battles had healed, but they would always show. Proof that change came with cost. What do we do now? Hyun asked. Now? Velrith's eyes glowed with familiar mischief. Now we find the next impossible thing and make it possible. Hyun felt his squadron communicating through their bonds. Jiwon had found a new mission, a remote station under attack by raiders. They needed help, and they needed it fast. Looks like we have work, Hyun said. We always have work, Velrith replied. That is the burden of being exceptional. Hyun climbed onto his dragon's back. The harness felt like a second skin now. The bond between them hummed with readiness and joy. Below, people were watching. Humans, Vrax, Korvathi, Talesian, all of them looking up. A year ago, they would have looked through him. Now they saw him. More importantly, they saw what was possible when you refused to accept limitations. Velrith spread his wings. They were massive, blotting out the sun. The dragon's muscles bunched, preparing for flight. Ready? Velrith asked. Hyun smiled. Always. They launched into the sky together, crimson scales and human courage combined into something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. Behind them, other dragons followed, the unseen wing rising to meet whatever came next. The Academy had claimed humans could not bond with dragons. They had been wrong. But more than that, they had been short-sighted. Because the question was never whether humans could bond with dragons. The question was, what would happen when they did? The answer was still being written, one flight at a time. And Hyun intended to make it a story worth telling. He looked ahead at the stars, infinite and waiting. Velrith's voice rumbled with satisfaction in his mind. Ready for the next impossible thing, partner? Hyun laughed, feeling the wind rush past as they climbed higher. Let us go find out. They flew toward the horizon, toward danger, toward the future. Together. Always together. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly how it should be.